Hello everyone, I'm Silver. It is Monday, May 27th. Happy Memorial Day to all those in the States. I just wanted to say a quick hello to all new viewers and an awesome welcome back must also go out to all returning viewers. If you did tune in last time and decided to come back, I really do appreciate it. You can find me on Ravelry as Silverluna2112, at Silver's Trees on Instagram, and at Silver's Knitting on Twitter. Anyway, how have you all been over the past couple weeks? I've been good. I do have a lot to talk to you about, so I should probably get started, right? So grab your drink of choice, you are knitting, crafting, and away we go. Today I'm actually going to be drinking a nice cup of seltzer water. I think this is the grapefruit flavor that we've got. I don't remember. MTI will know better than I do. And since he's not here at the moment, that's fine. But if you happen to hear him later on, you'll know why. It's a holiday here, so anyway, let me just take a quick drink and we will get started. The more you know. Now, the more you know is where I will go over if there are any cows or if there are any administrative stuff that I need to mention. All right, if you are new to the show, welcome. Since I am now actually going into the start of my 4th year of podcasting, because today it marks the third Podiversary. I'm going to do a quick introduction to myself and the different segments a little bit more than I normally do, especially since I'm going to treat this kind of like I did the first time I recorded. Hi, yes, my given name is Jessica, but all of my close friends do call me Silver. I have always been told that I live in my own little world of movie and music quotes, so that I thought that the name Silver's Dreamland was appropriate. Plus, it also is a nod to one of my favorite video games, Kirby's Dreamland, because I'm kind of geeky like that. That's pretty much who I am, and I celebrate that. I actually live in Connecticut with my hubby, Mark, who goes by MTI all over the interwebs. He is almost a year older than me and has actually worked as a computer guy for a bank for quite a bit now. He plays video games more than I do and even had a stint of speedrunning a few years ago. I believe he's just kind of playing casually now. I don't know if he's got a project of that magnitude planned. Anyway, essentially, he and his gaming friends would play through games as fast as possible, hence the term speedrunning. I don't get the appeal of that, but whatevs. Let's see. Oh yeah, MTI and I actually met in high school band. Actually, he plays the bass and several other guitars. Me, I've played the flute, piccolo, piano, some guitar, recorder when I was a little bit younger. As you usually do. I actually first noticed MTI when he knocked over a bunch of music stands during a concert one year, and we've both been pretty involved in many music projects together ever since. We took on one, or several in my case, of our school's theater productions together. For the past few months, we've actually even been podcasting together. We call this show Music for Two here on YouTube, where we bring 2 music albums to our dining room table, literally, and discuss them in great detail together. That's more of an adult matter podcast, so your little ones probably should give it a skip because I tend to let fly the obscenities more than I do here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we have been adopted by a tuxedo cat who we called Mario. Yes, after the video game character. He got his name because he always came running when we were playing through the Wii Mario game that we really liked, doing a playthrough for a marathon at one point. Essentially, when we were yelling at the game. That, and he really does have that handlebar mustache the game character has. If you ever want to know what he's up to, I usually use the hashtag MarioTheCat on Instagram. If you'd like to go ahead and follow him. In fact, I used that to introduce the beginning of this podcast episode. Alright, so if you've been listening to me for a while, you know that I've been recording for almost 3 years. In fact, like I mentioned before, I am celebrating my 3-year Podiversary today. Today also marks the first time I'm editing episodes with a new software on my computer. I'll explain that later. So there may be a few changes in the journal format of the show, as this new program does have some newfangled stuff that I'm kind of still getting used to and still playing around with. Hopefully, some of these changes are going to enhance your viewing experience. Only time will tell, right? Anyway, I hope you'll be willing to help me celebrate my third Podiversary with me. I've actually opened up a contest thread on the Silver's Dreamland Ravelry board. For this contest, I'd like you to be a member of the Ravelry group and maybe answer a few simple prompts. Since it is my third Podiversary, let's have 3 prompts at this time. The first one is like I did last year, just looking through my episode titles, which one of them is your favorite and why? I'm going to go ahead and link all the show titles in the show notes. You'll find a link to the show notes below the video here on YouTube. And I've also included the list in the Ravelry board as well. So that way you can take a quick look. Now, on the subject of my episode titles, as most of them have been based on movie, music, or TV references, would you prefer that I always include where each title comes from? Like where it comes from and who said it, etc. Because I'm geeky like that and I can tell you. I can actually put the answer to that at the end after the credits for those who really normally aren't interested in that or knowing where the reference came from. Or would you prefer that I actually open up contests in each episode thread to see if you, my wonderful viewers, can actually guess where the title comes from? As I can do one, the other, or both. So go ahead and take your vote. I'll put up a poll sometime later today once I get the episode up. I really would like to know. I've been thinking about that for a while, hence why the question. The third question I do have from you, I want to get to know you, my viewers, a little bit better. What has actually been the FO or the item that you've completed this past year that you are the most proud of? It could be anything at all. So, what will you win for answering my questions? Well, you'll be winning this wonderful skein of Paintbox Yarns sock yarn. The color is called Stripes Wisteria. It is 427 yards or 390 meters, which is 100 grams. It is 75% wool, 25% nylon or polyamide. I'll actually be using random number generator to pick a winner next episode. And I will actually be leaving this thread open until Sunday, June 2nd, until about the time I go to bed that night or early on the 3rd, depends on how late I'm up. I'll actually lock the thread and draw for the winner earlier on the 3rd, like I mentioned. So good luck, everyone. A few more pieces of administration before I jump into the rest of the episode. I want to remind everyone that I do have an any questions type thread called Inquiring Minds Want to Know on the Ravelry board. It has been quiet for some time, actually quite dead, I think for almost a year now. Oops, sorry, because I keep forgetting to mention it. But if there's anything you would like to know about me, please feel free to go ahead and ask. I will pretty much answer anything within reason, and if it does not make me go on a political rant, I'll answer anything. That's my only caveat for that one. The other piece of administration that I have has to do with another semi-dormant thread in our Silver's Dreamland podcast group, the introductions thread. There hasn't been anyone introducing themselves in quite a bit. If you are a member of the group or a new member of the group and you have not introduced yourself, please feel free to. Who knows, you may just get a shout out here on air as it is. Let's move on to my favorite things. The biggest thing that happened this past couple weeks was I got a new computer, the new Dell Inspiron. I am still kind of playing with everything. I am not used to Windows 10 yet, so every once in a while when you hear me kind of go silent, it's because my computer has automatically jumped down like a bunch of pages in my notes, and yeah, it kind of frustrates me when things move when they're not supposed to. I'm still getting used to that. To that end, I will have a bunch of new software I get to play with editing wise. So if things are a little bit different than they normally are, you know why. I have some few surprises planned in that editing software for down the road. So make sure you stay tuned. The other thing I do want to discuss is my birthday celebration. Yes, I turned 35 on the 18th. On that day, my parents and my brother and I and MTI all got together and went out for ice cream at a place called Rich's, which happens to be one of my favorite ice cream places in the state to go. And then we went out to a brewery, which happens to be maybe about 2 miles, if that, away from it. Absolutely love them. I'm gonna tell you right now, I got absolutely knackered. Like, I passed out when I got home. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I also got burned when we were at the ice cream parlor too. And yours truly doesn't normally eat breakfast, so that whole combination just kind of whatever. But yeah, I had a little flight of beer to myself. They were all so good, and I wanted to take some home, but yeah, I was like, no, girl, you had enough for like 4 days just now. So let's move on to FOs. Now, what FO stands for is a finished object, obviously. So things that I have finished over the past week or weeks. Spoiler alert, I have finished quite a bit. If you are not aware and are not a long time viewer, I do participate in Stash Dash, which is a cal hosted by the Knit Girls. Basically, you go in, you finish as many things as you possibly can, and you also will go ahead and maybe finish up a lot of your stash as well. I hopefully can get to 15K, but I'm not going to commit to that until I know for sure. To that end, let's move on to the first thing I finished. For this first FO, I am actually going to go ahead and combine two different FO project pages on Ravelry. One is April 2019's washcloths as well as May 2019's washcloths. I finished 2 for April and 4 for May. But only 5 will actually count for Stash Dash, which is a total of 300 total yards. The pattern I used on this was the Grandma's Dishcloth by Ruth Slate, and I used Knit Picks Dishy in the conch, the blush, and the azure colorway. Pretty much a combination of all 3 of those. And I have been using size US6, which is a 4.0 marble circs. The second thing I did finish was what I called ITA baby hats. I did finish 2 of them for a total of 191.4 yards. I did the 12-month size. That way it gives the recipient a little bit of time to grow into the hats. The pattern I used on this one was the Basic Baby Hat by Heather Tucker. And I used Universal Yarns DK in both the Tea Party colorway, which is a stripy sequence that has like blues and pinks and a whole mixture of colorways. And the second one was called Peach Smoothie. It was colorway. Oh, love the way that these 2 hats came out. On these hats, I did use a size US6, which is a 4.0 marble circs. They are 16-inch circulars. The next thing that I did finish was what I called May 2019 DVD socks. I did manage to get 281.8 yards on this one. Semi-shorty socks for a recipient who I won't mention just in case they happen to hear this. I want them to be a surprise. The pattern I used on this one was the Toe-Up Socks of the Difference by Wendy D. Johnson. This is a pattern I tend to use most often for socks that I'm giving away to recipients. The yarn I used on this one was Desert Vista Dye Works in her Viso base in the colorway Just for Mom. I love it. I love this stripy sequence. If I could keep that for myself, I would. But anyway, I am using a size US1, which is a 2.25 millimeter 9-inch circulars on most of the sock until I get to the toes and the cuffs. The next thing I did finish was what I called Exterminate the Rainbow. I did get 253.7 yards for this one. Again, I used the Taupe Socks for the Difference by Wendy D. Johnson pattern. And the yarn I used on this one was another Desert Vista Dye Works Viso-based colorway called Rainbow Exterminate. And again, I am using a size US1, which is a 2.25 millimeter on that one as well. The fifth thing that I did manage to finish this past couple weeks was what I called Roy G. Bib for Eva. I did get 344.8 yards on this one. I did use the Vanilla is the New Black pattern by Vanessa Fletcher. The yarn that I used was Rockin' String Creations in their Super Sock base. The colorway was Roy G. Biv. And I did include a solid tan tweed toe. I'm sorry, I don't remember the colorway. It is some scrap yarn that I've had for a while. I was realizing as I got to the end of the first sock that I wasn't going to quite have enough yarn if I wanted to put some in my sock yarn blanket that I've been working on for a couple of years, if I actually did the toes on both socks. So that's how the tan came in. Nice and simple. On this one, again, I am using a size US 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter needle. The sixth thing that I did manage to finish was what I called Blue Love. I did get 287.1 yards. This sock I've had on the needles, God, according to Ravelry, over 2 years. Don't know why. It's just been kind of sitting there in my UFO bin. No real reason. I liked the pattern, which was the CC's Vanilla French Vanilla Cappuccino Socks by CC Almond. I have been using Gail's Art Single Sock Blank in the Blue Love colorway. I don't know why it just sat in the box because I like both those together, so whatever. But I have been using a size US 2, which is a 2.75 millimeter. It's the needle size I do tend to use for all of these things, the sock blanks, mostly because I feel like it's a thicker weight yarn. Oh yeah, the seventh thing that I did manage to finish was what I called Ribbing Mark. I did get 335.3 yards. Pattern I used on this one was the Vanilla is the New Black by Vanessa Fletcher. These, obviously, if you can't tell, are for MTI. I did use one of the colorways that he picked out for himself, the Zitron Trekking XXL, and the colorway 578, which is dark green with pops of red, or not red, of orange and yellow and different colorways like that. And there's some blue in there too. He really liked it. So I did use a size US 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter, 9-inch circulars all the way up until the toe. And then I use 16-inch circulars. And I did, for this one, decide to use a 3-needle bind off instead of trying to Kitchener the toe. Because I've found that he tends to like a more sturdy toe. And I get that from doing a 3-needle bind off. Plus, if I'm being honest, my Kitchener stitch isn't as powerful as doing a 3-needle bind off. Let's be perfectly honest. The one time I tried to do it on one of his toes, he broke through it real quick. Don't ask me how. I have no idea. Anyway, the eighth thing that I did manage to finish this past couple days actually was what I called Nothing is Lost Sasana, Only Changed. For this shawl, I did end up getting 857.5 yards. This is the pattern Nothing is Lost Sasana, Only Changed wrap by CC Almond. I did use Leading Men Fiber Arts in their showcase base. On the colorway is called Just Peachy. I used a size US 3, which is a 3.25 millimeter as well. And the last thing that I just finished right before midnight last night was what I called First Point of Autumn. For this one, I did get 977.2 yards. The pattern on this one was a Laura Ayler pattern called First Point of Libra. I first saw this pattern on Round the Twist with Karen a couple years ago, and I said, I've got to knit that. So to that end, I ended up buying 2 different colorways for this at SSK in 2018 when I went. The first one that I used, which was the, I guess, primary color, was called, was Leading Men Fiber Arts Diva Base in their London Fog colorway. And then I bought a gradient from Gail's Art. She calls her MYS gradient sets in the Autumn Sonic colorway. I ended up using 5 of the 6 colors, but that's fine. I do have plenty of leftovers again for my scrappy blankets. And I used the size US 4, which was 3.5 millimeter. I love the way it came out, you guys. I still have yet to tuck in the ends, but I'll do that before this goes live. So, and get some pictures for y'all. All right, I'm going to spout out some numbers with my stash total. So if you are in the process of counting, now would be the time to pause. I did get 3,828.8 yards or 3,501.06 meters total. Oh my gosh, you guys. I cannot believe how quickly I knit those all up. But Stash Dash only started 3 days ago, so I'm hopeful for the rest of the time, right? I'm hoping. Okay, let's move on to whips, or works in progress. I have one new whip since the last time I talked to you guys. I called this Endurance Test for Quitty match number 2. Nice and simple. That way I can remember what I'm putting it in for. Again, I'm also a part of the Harry Potter Knit and Crochet House Cup. And this project is for Quidditch. The pattern I'm using on this one was the Progression Shawl by Karen Reisinger of the Round the Twist podcast, also here on YouTube. I am using Miss Babs Yowza. The first colorway is Across the Universe. I'm just about to put the second colorway in. I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head. Bad podcaster, I know. I am using a size US 7, which is a 4.5 marble circs on this one. However, since it is only a 35-inch cable, I'm needing a little bit more room, so the new needle should be here sometime this week, I'm thinking. This project is being housed in my pumpkin spice latte bag by the Knitted Broomstick. So another project that did get a little bit of love this time around is what I called a Ray of Sunshine. The pattern on this one was, again, Toe Up Socks of the Difference by Wendy D. Johnson, as this project is for somebody for the holidays. The yarn I'm using on this one is Patton's Croy Greener Pastures. I love the stripy sequins on this one, you guys. I almost want to keep them for myself, but they're already almost to the heel, so they're way too long for my feet. If that's a hint as to who they're for, I have no idea. Anyway, the needles I'm using on this one are a size US 2, which is a 2.75 millimeter. I'm using a 9-inch circulars up until I get to the cuff at this point. Silver is unraveling fast. This is usually where I go ahead and talk about anything that has really disappointed me or have issues with it, and I've either put it down or I've had to think back and whatever to it to fix it. For this category, I have 2. Let's see. For the first one I want to talk about is my Huffle Pride sweater. This is the Hogwarts A History pattern by Megan Regan. I got to the sleeve separation and did 2 rows after that. Only then did I realize that the numbers for the pattern weren't quite working for me or lining up where the newly created sleeves are. Essentially, I had a lot of short row shaping on the back of the neck that didn't quite follow through where the sleeve numbers were on the pattern. I'm going to go ahead and just take back eventually and just kind of rejig my back a bit to make it all work for the collar shaping that I put in there. Obviously, it's pretty obvious to me that it doesn't quite match up. Otherwise, this lazy knitter would have just kind of left it been almost done with the body already because it's a quick knit. The top is actually a yoked sweater, so it does have patterning on it. That's amazing. It's actually my first colorwork sweater, so here's hoping everything blocks out because it's a little bit puckery, but not much. The next thing that did fall into this category is what I called ITA socks. I was making a pair of ribbed socks with the Genevieve's pattern by the Knitmore girls. Honestly, the socks were not matching up with the DK yarn I was using. It just didn't work. And so I managed to just change it to the hats that I mentioned above in FOs because they were also easier to make too, if I'm being completely honest. Back to the future. Now, this is the segment where I normally talk about future knits, things that I really want to cast on soon-ish. Mostly I do have this category this time, mostly because I have not gotten a chance to cast on a new project that I really want to get going. I know all the details for it already, so, and I have a project page. I called this SSDGM and F Politeness. If you are not a My Favorite Murder fan, you might not get those 2 references. SSDGM stands for Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered. And F Politeness is also a polite way of saying what they normally say. But anyway, the pattern on this one, basically this will be for a mystery cowl that's actually started on Saturday, so I'm a couple of days behind, but I'm hoping hopefully today to get that cast on and started. The pattern for this one is by CC Allman. It's called My Favorite Murder Mystery Wrap. The yarn is by Suburban Stitcher and her sock base in the Triflers Need Not Apply colorway. Oh, I love this colorway. I cannot wait to get started. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at it right now. That's why I keep getting distracted. Anyway, I have decided on this that I will be using a size US 3, which is a 3.25 millimeter, and a size US 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter. This pattern is written to be knit in two different segments and actually seamed together at the end. So what I will do is actually knit them concurrently, so do one piece and then the other, and just kind of keep going back and forth as the clues come out. See my project page for the dates, so the clues come up, so that way you can see when I'm going to be updating. I have decided to house this project in my springtime flower bag by the Fat Squirrel. This is actually the bag that I did get as a pre-order for SSK 2018. I absolutely love this bag. My God. Radio GaGa. This is where I talk about all of the things that I have been listening to over the past couple weeks or whatever. In terms of music, I have actually been listening to the Darkness Permission to Land album, as well as Blink-182, Enema of the State, Metallica's Master of Puppets, No Doubt's Tragic Kingdom, and Dream Theater's Scenes from a Memory, because I really like that album. Oh, in terms of podcasts, I have been listening to My Favorite Murder, as always, The Murder Squad, Associates Anonymous, The Wayward Podcast, and That's Why We Drink, Wine and Crime, and also MTI's podcast, The Decisive Albums Podcast. Silver's Book Pile. This is where I discuss everything that I have been reading, both what I finished and what I am currently reading. In terms of what I finished this past couple weeks was a book called Cress by Marissa Mayer, as well as the last book in that same series by Marissa Mayer called Winter. I read a book called You Don't Know Me by Mandy Lee. Sorry, I also read The Bitchy Waiter, Life on the Other Side by Darren Cardoza. Oh, loved this book, you guys. I recommend it for anyone that does have a customer-facing job and who has also have the thought of possibly putting out a book about the escapades and things that you've experienced in said field. As to what I'm currently reading, I am currently reading A Breath of Snow and Ashes by Dana Gabaldon. I've also been reading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix for quite a while. I'm hopefully going to try to finish it this week. We'll see. I'm also reading Mount Vernon Love Story by Mary Higgins Clark. And the last book that I have been reading a little bit more of over the past couple days is The Fairy Tale Bride by Kellen McClamer. I believe I've actually read this one before, but I didn't remember it, so whatever, right? Silver and the Case of the Screen Time. This is where I talk about everything that I have been watching, because I am one that likes to have stuff on in the background a lot of the time. This past couple weeks has been, I just want to watch TV all the time. A lot of TV. In terms of TV, I have been watching the first couple seasons of American Horror Story. I did try out season 3, maybe a couple episodes. I'm not sure if I want to finish the rest of it. I had been watching The Dead Files. I did catch up with them and finish that. That's awesome. I've got maybe an episode from Thursday night that I need to finish. I also found Portals to Hell, which has Jack Osborne in it, hence why I wanted to watch it. It was a couple episodes, or places that he went to that are amazing, and I knew that they had gone on that list mostly because they were Ghost Adventures locations and been called Portals to Hell by people that have visited. So, there you go. And the last little bit of TV I have been watching a lot of is Stargate SG-1. To that end, I'm about halfway through season 2, and I haven't watched it in a couple of days, mostly because I've got other things I need to watch. But I do have a box set that I kind of watch through all of Stargate SG-1, and then I will go ahead and watch Stargate Atlantis afterward, and the movies and all that. I love that whole franchise, so that's kind of where, if I'm feeling a little low or things aren't going quite the way I want to, that's the series I will turn on. This week I needed it, so I did. I watched it. No excuses. Anyway, I digress. In terms of movies, I did watch 5 different movies. I did watch Men in Black 2 on TV Live, I believe. I've watched Pitch Perfect 1, 2, and 3, and The Shining this past week. I did start watching a little bit of Lord of the Rings, but I got about an hour before I realized it's 11 o'clock at night. I need to go to bed. That was last night, if you couldn't tell. So I will go ahead and I'll watch the rest of the movie sometime today. In terms of podcasts, I do have an entire long list of video podcasts that I do watch, but I did catch up with Knit 3 Together, so I'm all caught up with them. Yarn Hoarder, I've also watched the Grocery Girls, the Dramatic Knits, Knit and Kid, and Tea and Possibilities, Stitching the High Notes, the Knit Girls, and the Geeky Girls Knit podcast. I do have a lot more that I do watch. I've made a list of those directly on my show notes page, which you can find at www.silversdreamlandpodcast.com. And links to everything I've mentioned will be there as well. To that end, we have actually gotten to the end of the road. I am pretty social. You can find me on our Ravelry board, which is Silver's Dreamland Podcast. I am Silverluna 2112 there on Ravelry. On Facebook, Silver's Dreamland can be found at www.facebook.com/Silver's Dreamland. On Instagram, I am at Silver's Treats. On Twitter, I am at Silver's Knitting. Just note that I do tend to read through all messages as soon as I possibly can. Also, another quick note, if you were trying to message me on Instagram, direct messages do not work on my phone, so I cannot see them. I'm so sorry. If you don't hear from me and you're trying to get in contact with me directly within a 24-hour time frame, please feel free to email me directly at silversdreamland@gmail.com with any questions, concerns, whatever. I love hearing from everyone. As always, everything that I do talk about can be found in the show notes, like I mentioned, at www.silversdreamlandpodcast.com. Okay, I have rambled long enough. I know your time is valuable, so please feel free to go ahead and join in any discussion, or you can start your own on the Silver's Dreamland Ravelry board. I don't bite, I promise. So please stay tuned for episode 72 on the 3rd. Until next time, happy crafting!